up my first tier list for MTG's upcoming set, Universes Beyond Lord of the Rings Tales of the Middle-earth. Man, that's a mouthful. So far, 25 cards have already been spoiled. Officially, the spoiler season starts May 30th, and the set is supposed to release June 23rd. I took and plan on taking the time to sift through the chaff, so you don't have to. So save yourself the time and, more importantly, your money.
Hey everyone, welcome to Commander Pop Culture. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified of future content.
So far in the S tier, I like to preface that pre-ordering these mythics in this tier is pretty safe investment. It'll be a good middle road where you won't feel burned for spending too much money if it loses value, but happy if and when they most likely will raise in price due to the limited quantities.
The Great Henge
is getting a full art treatment as the party tree. Real original there. You can pick up a Throne of Eldraine copy for $55. I expect this card to excessively exceed that price. If you can nab one at a pre-order price close to it, I'd nab it. Definitely going to be one of the chase cards of the set. Number 2, the One Ring is getting multiple variations, but I think this is going to be the more realistically sought after version. It has a powerful ETB triggering by giving you protection from everything until your next turn, and an equally as strong triggered ability where you try to stack as many burden counters to draw cards. Both abilities scream precious! And very lore flavorful. If you're the lucky person to open the serialized 1-of-1 version of this card, don't sell it unless you're being offered at least 6 figures. That's not a joke of a statement, and keep your possession of that card secret as possible. Treat this thing like the actual ring from the story. I can only imagine all the terrible things that could happen to you if you advertise possessing it. Get it to a grading facility, keep your mouth shut, and keep it in a vault of a bank until you get a serious buyer. I, like most players, will most likely buy at least one collector box to try our luck for the Chocolate Factory. Hey! Number 3, Ensnaring Bridge is getting a full art treatment as the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. You can get previous iterations of this card for $15. Again, try to pick it up if the price is close. Mount Doom is a mana fixing land that comes into play untapped. WotC doesn't print enough of these, and the card has a lot of flavor in it as well. For an additional 7 mana, you can sack a legendary artifact in itself, like the One Ring from the story, and everything implodes, and you get to choose up to 2 permanents, your Frodo and Samwise. This is the first of its kind being a board wipe stapled on a land. I expect this version to fall somewhere between $20 and $30. Number 5, Wasteland is getting a full art treatment as well as the Valley of Gargaroth. Currently, you can get a copy as cheap as $22. Look for a pre-order price that is close to it. Number 6, Delighted Halfling is another and slightly better version of Boreal Druid. You can get a Boreal for around $4. I expect this version to be priced somewhere between $5 and $15 due to its rare rarity. WotC can't print enough dorks for 1 mana. Anyone playing green will want a copy. Moving on to A tier.
Alright. Oh, Christ. How you doing?
I'd pay no more than $5 for these cards. Number 7, Tom Bombadil. I love the lore flavor of this art in particular. In case you don't know, Tom is the creator of Middle-earth and is rumored to walk amongst its inhabitants. In the books, he is referenced in song inside of taverns, but nobody actually knows the legend to be actually true. I feel like this art captures the lore perfectly. Sadly, I find its mechanics to be unimpressive. The Saga trigger has a caveat in that it can only happen once a turn. I don't know who was in charge of the design of this card, but they seriously neutered its potential. The game of Commander has become so fast that you won't get as many triggers as you would like. It's a bait of a deck build. Its price influence is based on its mythic rarity and the lore of the card. Overall, this card is just mediocre. Number 8, Sauron. The Lidless Eye is a cool card in that you have a mana sink win condition from your command zone. The only thing I don't like about it is that Xantcha does it strictly better with a cheaper CMC and has a generic costed sink that also gives card advantage. Number 9, Aragorn and Arwen Wed is a bit of a hot topic amongst the Magic community for obvious reasons. WotC had the IP and took the book source material of quote-unquote the Ranger being dark in complexion quite literally. If you ever wondered why WotC asks for your race in their surveys, I think this card is a byproduct of those surveys. WotC has clearly noticed a gap in the demographics of its player base and is trying to reach out under the guise of trying to be more inclusive. Truthfully, WotC is just using the survey data to make their wallets just a little bit thicker. This card's ETB and attack trigger also conveys a message of inclusivity, thus annoying its player base further with a push social agenda. As for me, I simply want the card just because it's mechanically unique. Unfortunately, I think its price point is going to be inflated for all the wrong reasons, even though its mechanics are also mediocre. Number 10, Trailblazers Boots gets a full art treatment as Lorien Broche. You can get a copy for $2, and I expected a higher value in price, but being at a rare, there will be a lot of copies floating around. These next 5 cards are all centered around the core mechanic of the Ring Bearer and the temptation of the ring. If you don't know how the mechanic works, allow me to explain. Once you trigger the keywords of the ring tempts you, you start from the top tier of the emblem that gets attached to a creature of your choice as the Ring Bearer. The temptation tiers do not get reset, meaning if your attached creature dies, you'll pick up at the next tier should you get tempted again. Your Ring Bearer also gets all of the previous abilities, and should you be tempted more than 4 times, the emblem does not reset. At that point, it is just to reappoint a new Ring Bearer. As for the abilities that the emblem awards you, they're just quality of life combat triggers. It's nothing game breaking. Moving on, number 11, Frodo Sauron's Bane is placed at the top of those 5 cards because it's a payoff for achieving all the tiers of the emblem as a win condition. I love the flavor of the card because it really captures Frodo's story from beginning to end. He starts off as a simple and innocent being, but then turns into a hardened character that is tainted by the ring's power, which is captured by the card's activation costs. However, like the difficulty of Frodo's task and the driving force of the story's plot, accomplishing the win condition is equally as difficult. Level up abilities are mana taxing and feels incredibly frustrating to be hindered by removal, because it forces you to start over with a higher commander tax. If you want to build a deck themed around the story of Lord of the Rings, then this is by far your best commander. Number 12, Frodo Baggins. This card has the easiest way to rifle through your temptation triggers, but has no payoff, thus takes the next spot. The other nice things about this card is it's in ideal flicker colors and has a cheap and efficient CMC. It also has a lure-esque kind of effect that makes people lose their blockers once you reach the 3rd tier. It's just a nombo due to the 1st tier, meaning opponents will be losing creatures they could probably care less about. Number 13, Bilbo, Retired Burglar, is most likely the second best at temp triggers because it happens on ETB and exit. When designing the emblem, I feel like they had this card in mind because of the story lore, and that the emblem makes the Ring Bearer more evasive. Kind of like how in the books and in the movies, you turn invisible, and Bilbo particularly used those qualities to steal things, so I like it. Number 14, Samwise, the Stout-Hearted, is another efficient flicker target with the added benefit of being able to return any permanent that was recently lost. At its worst, you could get your fetch land back. The only time I care about creatures and flash is if they're cheap. When I play instants, they all cost 2 or fewer mana, and creatures with flash are no exception to that rule. And on ETB, you also get tempted. So moving on to number 15, Gollum, Patient Plotter. He's a cool card in that he is a sack outlet from your graveyard. The only drawback is you can only activate at a sorcery speed, and thus probably the slowest at getting your temp triggers because you can only activate them once. I like the flavor of this card because the story of Gollum is that you think he's dead and he comes back multiple times in this story to get the ring back. I'll probably be running this card in my commander cube because I like the recursion aspect of this card. And I think the emblem is fair enough and not too powerful to be played in a limited type of format. We're 16. Reprieve is a white remand. At its best, you time walk someone's turn by countering a single large spell. It's cool in that this card is outside of its pie chart, and people will most likely not expect it coming. Finally, we're at the B tier. I organized this section by rarity because their price will only be influenced by that.
I would not pay more than $1 for these cards.
Sam, Loyal Attendant. As it currently stands, his partner has yet to be spoiled. I hope he's good, because unless the commander deck partner gives a payoff for having a lot of food tokens or gives a payoff for gaining life, this card will remain in the garbage tier. For 18, Lobelia, Sackville, Baggins. With how fast commander is getting and how efficient creatures are getting, stat blocks are mattering less and less. If people are running big fat creatures, they're typically resilient to removal and are few in people's decks. If you play this card, have a low expectation. Number 19. The Shire sucks because it has an enters tapped stipulation. Other than that, all it does is tap for green or taps down one of your own blockers so you can gain a food. Really pushing those boundaries with that ability. Hey, Watsy? Whoever designed this card must really dislike small towns and villages.
Burn the village! Burn the village!
Number 20, Sauron the Necromancer. You get a one-off effect from your creatures because they exile themselves at end step. And they include this unnecessary hoop of making him the ring bearer to get the desired effect of at least keeping the darn things. I get the flavor, but I think you ultimately sour the taste of this card.
Everybody loves it.
Number 21, Radagast, Wizard of the Wilds. Like Tom Bombadil, this is another bait build in Commander. Removal's too efficient for Ward 1 to be relevant, and filling your deck with spells that are 5 CMC or greater is a really bad idea for your curve. You'll be stuck playing one spell a turn in the format where casting the most spells in a game generally causes you to win. Number 22 and 23, Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf, Friend of the Shire. I wonder if WotC purposely made these cards terrible, so when Gandalf the White is foiled, they make that version of himself really stand out to be OP. Makes me worried if there will be an ugly friend effect, meaning it will only look good because it's compared to its counterparts.
Huh?
Holy shit!
Number 24, Wizard's Rockets. Its entered tapped clause makes this card a real bummer. I understand why they included it, because if they didn't, it would have been strictly better than Chromatic Star, and it would have broken multiple formats. Number 25.
You shall not pass!
This card is equally meme-worthy as the movie. I don't know why anyone would play this kind of removal, other than to simply have an in-game laugh. And that's it for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm in uncharted territory and would appreciate to hear people's thoughts. Thank you for watching.